The story of European exploration of the Americas often begins with two famous names, Christopher Columbus and John Cabot. But what if I told you that long before their ships charted the Atlantic, there were other, far older journeys? These are the lost voyages, expeditions that have faded from our history books, leaving behind only whispers and fragments of evidence. This is the untold story of the explorers who ventured into the unknown, long before Cabot. For centuries, the narrative was simple. Columbus discovered the New World. But the truth is much more complex. The year is 1497. John Cabot, an Italian navigator sailing under the English flag, is about to make history. His voyage will lay the groundwork for England's claim in North America. But Cabot was not the first. Before him, others had already crossed the vast ocean. Their story is swept away by the tides of time, overshadowed by the more celebrated expeditions that followed. To understand why these earlier voyages were forgotten, we have to look at the world Cabot lived in. Europe's age of exploration was in full swing, driven by the lure of Asia's immense riches. Spain and Portugal were the maritime superpowers, launching daring expeditions to find new sea routes. England, under King Henry VII, was playing catch-up. It was in this competitive atmosphere that John Cabot's journey took place, but he was building on a foundation laid by others, a foundation that has been largely ignored. Let's rewind the clock long before Cabot. In the 10th and 11th centuries, the Vikings were the masters of the North Atlantic. Their legendary sagas tell of incredible sea voyages, most famously the story of Leif Erikson. Round the year 1000, he is believed to have landed on the shores of what is now Newfoundland, Canada. He called it Vinland. We have archaeological proof of their settlement at Land's Ox Meadows. But what if that was just the beginning? What if the Vikings traveled even further, reaching the coast of what we now call the United States? Tantalizing clues suggest they did. From strange runestones found in Minnesota and Oklahoma to artifacts that defy easy explanation, pieces of a forgotten puzzle are scattered across the continent. Oral histories from some Native American tribes also hint at encounters with fair-haired strangers from across the sea, yet official history often reduces these incredible Norse expeditions to a mere footnote, a prelude to the real discovery. Why were these journeys, which took place nearly 500 years before Columbus, so thoroughly erased from the grand narrative of exploration? But the Vikings weren't the only ones. There are whispers of another group from the misty hills of Wales. According to legend, a Welsh prince named Madog of Wales grew tired of war and turmoil at home. In the late 12th century, around 1170, he gathered a group of followers and set sail from the Welsh coast, seeking a new, peaceful land. The story goes that he found one far across the Atlantic and established a colony. Did Prince Madog truly discover America centuries before Columbus? For a long time, historians dismissed this as pure myth. But then strange reports began to surface. In the 17th and 18th centuries, European explorers and traders traveling through the Appalachian region encountered Native American tribes who spoke a language that sounded remarkably like Welsh. Some even claimed to have seen old Welsh writings carved into rocks. Could these be the descendants of Madog's lost colony? Their culture and language preserved for centuries in the heart of a new continent. The evidence is controversial, but it raises fascinating questions about who else might have made the journey. This brings us back to John Cabot. Standing on the deck of his ship, the Matthew, in 1497, did he know about these earlier voyages? It's highly probable. Many historians now believe Cabot's expedition was not a leap into the complete unknown. Instead, it is likely he was armed with knowledge passed down through generations of sailors' knowledge of the Old Norse routes. He may have seen forgotten maps or heard sailors' tales in the bustling port of Bristol, a hub for trade with Iceland, where the sagas of Vinland were still told. Cabot might not have been discovering a new world, but rather retracing a path first charted by the Vikings half a millennium earlier. By the time Cabot set sail, the legacy of the Vikings was still alive in European maritime culture, even if it was buried in forgotten monastery libraries and the oral histories of sailors. His voyage wasn't the start of the story. but a pivotal chapter in a much longer, more mysterious saga of transatlantic contact. He reopened a door that had been closed for centuries. If Vikings and Welshmen could cross the Atlantic, what about other ancient civilizations? The mystery only deepens from here. Could the ancient Irish have reached America? The legend of Saint Brendan, an Irish monk from the 6th century, tells of a 7-year voyage across the ocean to a promised land of the saints. For centuries, this was seen as a religious fable. But in 1976, explorer Tim Severin built a replica of Brendan's boat's simple leather-clad vessel and successfully sailed it from Ireland to Newfoundland, proving the journey was possible. And what about civilizations even further away? Theories have circulated for decades about pre-Columbian contact from across the Pacific. Some researchers point to similarities between ancient Chinese and Olmec art in Mexico. Others have put forward the highly debated theory that Chinese Admiral Zheng He's treasure fleet might have reached the Americas in the early 15th century, decades before Columbus. Then there are the Phoenicians, the master mariners of the ancient world. Could their ships have been blown off course and carried across the ocean? These theories remain on the fringes of mainstream history, often lacking the concrete archaeological evidence needed to confirm them. But they remind us that the oceans were not impassable barriers. They were highways, and for bold and curious sailors, they were an invitation to explore. The lost voyages before Cabot represent one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The stories of the Vikings, the Welsh, and perhaps many others are a testament to human courage and curiosity. Their paths may have been forgotten, their names erased from the maps, but their legacy lies just beneath the surface, waiting to be rediscovered. These forgotten journeys challenge our understanding of the past and prove that history is never as simple as we think. Join us for part 2. As we dive deeper into the incredible evidence for these lost voyages, we'll examine hidden maps, decipher mysterious inscriptions, and explore the uncharted waters that set the stage for the great age of exploration. What other secrets are buried beneath the ocean of time? Now we dive deeper. We'll examine the hard evidence that has surfaced over the centuries and explore new theories that continue to rewrite everything we thought we knew about pre-Columbian contact with the New World. Could these earlier expeditions have secretly guided explorers like Cabot? And what hidden clues did they leave behind, buried in forgotten archives, lost documents, and ancient cryptic maps? Let's start with the Vikings. They were the first Europeans we know for sure set foot on North American soil, a full 500 years before Columbus. Led by the legendary Leif Erikson, they landed on the shores of what is now Newfoundland around the year 1000 AD. The settlement they built, Land's Ox Meadows, is the only confirmed Norse site in North America. But was that really the end of their journey? Recent archaeological finds suggest the Vikings ventured much further south. In 2020, researchers in Maine unearthed some incredible metal artifacts. Among them were a Viking-style sword pommel and iron nails that looked just like those used in Viking longhouses. This discovery is electrifying because it could point to another Viking settlement, far south of anything we previously imagined. And it doesn't stop there. There are reports of Viking-style runestones, large stone slabs inscribed with Old Norse symbols found, scattered all along the eastern seaboard of the United States, from Rhode Island to Connecticut. While some are debated, their existence is intriguing. If authentic, they suggest the Vikings might have established a whole network of outposts, stretching from the icy north all the way down the American coastline. Beyond the fierce Norsemen, another incredible legend persists, the tale of Prince Madog of Wales. According to ancient Welsh chronicles, this adventurous prince sailed to the Americas in the late 12th century, long before Columbus was even born. For years, historians dismissed this as a romantic myth, a campfire story. But could there be a kernel of truth to it? In the early 20th century, scholars stumbled upon something truly strange: remarkable similarities between the language of certain Native American tribes and the Welsh language. The Mandan tribe in North Dakota, for instance, were said to speak a language with a vocabulary that echoed Welsh. This linguistic puzzle sparked a new wave of interest. Had Welsh explorers really made contact with native peoples centuries before anyone else? The evidence isn't just linguistic. Some historians point to peculiar carvings on rocks in the Ohio River Valley. These markings bear an uncanny resemblance to early Welsh inscriptions. For a long time, they were written off as natural formations or even modern graffiti. But now they're being re-examined. Could they be the faint, weathered signatures of Welsh explorers left behind in the heart of the New World? This brings us to 1497. John Cabot, sailing for England, set out to find a new, faster route to the riches of Asia. His journey is often hailed as the moment Europe discovered North America. But was he truly sailing into the unknown? Or was he following a path already tread by others? When you look closer at the historical record, it seems Cabot may have had a secret advantage. He might have had access to knowledge from earlier voyages, specifically the voyages of the Vikings. It is plausible that Cabot had heard the Norse sagas or even seen maps created by sailors who had inherited this ancient navigational wisdom. Consider the Zeno map, a fascinating document from the late 14th century, attributed to Venetian explorers. This map appears to depict the coast of North America, and it predates Cabot's journey. By more than a century, it's widely thought to have been based on even older exploration reports, quite possibly including Norse accounts of their voyages to Vinland. Cabot wasn't just an explorer, he was a master navigator and researcher, and it's likely he sought out every piece of information he could find. While many original records of these early voyages have been lost to time, tantalizing clues still survive, hidden within ancient maps and manuscripts. One of the most famous and most controversial is the Piri-Reis map, created in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. This map shows the eastern coast of South America with startling accuracy. It's often cited as proof of pre-Columbian knowledge of the Americas. Some researchers are convinced that the Piri-Reis map wasn't drawn from scratch. They believe it was compiled from much older source maps that existed long before Columbus, perhaps passed down from ancient seafarers, maybe even the Vikings themselves. Going even further, some scholars argue the map contains knowledge of Antarctica before it was officially discovered, suggesting that ancient explorers possessed global navigation techniques, far more advanced than we give them credit for. But the Vikings and the Welsh might not have been the only ones. There are many other theories suggesting ancient civilizations crossed the Atlantic, long before the so-called Age of Discovery. Some believe the ancient Egyptians, with their sophisticated shipbuilding and navigational skills, could have made the journey. Others point to the Phoenicians, a civilization of master mariners who dominated the Mediterranean with their vast trading network. Could they have reached the Americas as early as the first millennium BCE? Perhaps the most mind-bending theory involves ancient Chinese exploration. A growing number of researchers suggest that during the Ming Dynasty, grand Chinese treasure fleets might have sailed across the Pacific, reaching the western shores of North America. There are even historical accounts from the 15th century that describe what appeared to be Chinese ships wrecked on the American coast again, long before Columbus set sail. Whether it's the Vikings in their longships, a Welsh prince seeking a new home, or even fleets from Egypt, Phoenicia, or China, the idea that ancient civilizations explored the Americas before 1492 completely changes our view of history. These voyages, whether proven or still shrouded in mystery, paint a picture of a world far more connected and explored than we ever imagined. As we continue to unearth new evidence and re-examine these long-forgotten tales, we are reminded that the story of the Americas is not a simple, one-dimensional narrative. With each new discovery, the rich tapestry of pre-Columbian history expands, pushing the boundaries of what we thought we knew and revealing a past more complex and fascinating than we could have ever dreamed. Thanks so much for joining us on this journey into the past. If you found this as fascinating as we do, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. See you next time.